So this week, here in the Wild West, a story broke of a teacher
who was arrested at elementary school for alleged sexual misconduct.
She was recently named Teacher of the Year and now faces
up to 15 felony charges, including lewd and lascivious acts with a child under the age of 15 and possession of child pornography.
This defendant maintained a relationship with this child for months, maybe even more than a year, when she began grooming him, giving him gifts, helping him in school, and praising him.
Deputy District Attorney Drew Hard arguing Ma encouraged the victim to communicate through a social messaging app where the victim reportedly expressed discomfort.
This defendant was obsessive, possessive, controlling, and dangerous.
We trust our kids coming to school and staying here and saying, okay, this is your second home. Okay, I love you. Keep your hands to yourself. I'll see you when I come back. And what happens?
This happened frightfully close to my home. It really shakes you up. It shakes you up when it's your community and when it's your people of color, people that live in these marginalized neighborhoods in which, you know, we're supposed to take care of each other and look out for each other. And these crimes were going on for a while. Now that I've discovered a few more details, and the details are pretty messed up. I don't know if it's made national news yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. As I've been looking around and trying to see, you know, how this could happen, like what were the details of this? You know, I as a child advocate, myself a survivor and philosopher and someone who really sees the abuse, the gentrification of childhood that is happening right now in our world, I want to try to be able to understand it. We can't fight something, we can't talk to the opposition without first understanding why they feel this way. So I've dug around, looked for the details of this. You always want to believe that there's been some misunderstanding, especially when it's a woman. This is very personal for a lot of us because I do know that some of my sisters are survivors of CSA at the hands of a woman. This does happen. So as a woman's advocate, I always try to think, you know, how heal a society from this disease. It's a social disease. In a world in which pornography and the lines of consent are so blurred, I just don't know if this battle against the exploitation, the sexual exploitation of children, is being won. It makes me feel very sad, very dismal, but this is why I try to come to a place of understanding. So in looking at the details of this and trying to figure out what went wrong, you know, what happened to this woman? What's going on in this community that children are not being educated on what the proper protocol from an adult, especially an educator, should be. This, of course, gives me so much more concern for what parents like myself are dealing with when it comes to these schools. Who are these people? I look at some of them, you know, I really try to look deeply into their faces when I go to my son's school and have parent-teacher conferences, and you know, these people are you and me. They're not gods. Teachers are, it's like, thank you for your service. You did choose this career knowing it pays nothing. Knowing also that our educational system is broken by bureaucracy. Are you really teaching? You have to go by a curriculum. A lot of these teachers I know out there don't agree with teaching gender ideology, but they still have to do it. That's what I mean. They look stressed as hell too, probably more than most parents. They have to deal with more of them. Think about that. You know, I only have one child right now under my care, which is my son. But I can't imagine having a classroom and several classrooms a day of these little nitwits. We are the adults. I hold adults to a high standard. I hold women to a high standard. So it's particularly devastating that this child predator, Jacqueline Ma, is a woman. She should have known better, because a lot of women understand oppression at the hands of men and violence at the hands of men. I hope that they stop the cycle. This is what I expect from women, but it just doesn't seem to really go my way very often. I try not to judge them. As I've said before, feminists do not put women down. We don't. When you're a child predator, though, all bets are off, bitch. This woman had the nerve to escort children off school campus, to have students go to her car in the parking lot. She was caught doing this by staff several times. It's like, in the aftermath, everyone is like, oh, I should have known. The signs were there. Yes, very, very much. Sometimes they so obviously are. We're just not paying attention. We're not trauma informed. In this society, the age of consent it's a blurred line for men. They take that privilege of defining, you know, what women are worthy of protection and what women are still sexually accessible to them. And sometimes they are girls. Whew. This is such a loaded topic. A lot of people like to take the side of protect our children from even this information. Wrong. Wrong. The world is such a hostile place right now for kids. I believe that there are more children not receiving proper adult guidance than there are. No one wants to take responsibility, and parents are out here not talking to their kids about it. As a matter of fact, I see them doing the opposite, making their children susceptible to these kinds of predators, even sweet looking little Jacqueline Ma, making them susceptible to that kind of predation. Predators want to go where the fountains of children are. That's where they're going to be. They want access. It makes sense. Okay, this is the predatory mind. Expect it. Expect that where there are children that are not being supervised by their parents but by other adults, there are going to be adults that think they can have access to them, that can groom them, give them information not appropriate to your home's culture, to what you and your home have decided would be the sexual culture, how you want your child to see the world of sexuality, which I think is another topic for another time. But, you know, I think we've really led our children astray in the sex ed that we are giving them. Apparently, a 13-year-old boy went under the radar. I'm also asking myself, you know, what wasn't he getting at home? What have the parents been doing? Are they out here doing YouTube channels, keeping up with all their platforms and trying to garner subscribers, beating everyone out? Like, is that what their parents are doing? Because then I can understand why they are neglecting this child, not being there, not having those conversations. That's exactly what we have to do. When stuff like this happens, we have to go and talk to our kids, have a serious talk like, hey, look, listen, recently in the news, that's how we start. Facts. There's been a teacher at a school, a lady, a woman, and you start those conversations like that. You begin telling them what you expect from not only them, in reporting something like this if it ever happened to them, but that you also expect that this wouldn't even be happening if this person, this adult, was responsible, was there for their benefit, for their wellness, which they are obviously not if they are engaging in this kind of behavior with children. This is grooming. Kids do not know better. Have these conversations with your kids right away. Be real with them. Tell them what these predators say, especially if you know firsthand. I know I'm a survivor and I was groomed. Used to be told so many lies. For instance, a common one is, you like this. Yes, you're enjoying this. You really like that I do this. No. Everything in your mind and in what you know to be true says this is not good and it doesn't feel right. We have to tell our children that these are normal reactions for them to have, but that it is not normal, that it is coming from an adult that way. Those situations are always volatile for children and they're dangerous, life-threatening. Another thing that I told my child is that boys talk about feeling empowered by women, older women, showing them attention, telling them that they're handsome. I tell him that there is a fine line. There is behavior that is appropriate. I give him examples. I'll say, well, if someone tells you, you look really nice in that sweater, or if someone says to you, I really like the way your ass looks in those jeans, something like of a sexually suggestive nature, we would say that that is grooming. It's an appropriate language for an adult to engage a child with. This child was 13. I cannot imagine intellectually, physically, in every single way, I am drawn to adults. If I imagined what it would be like to go to these measures, like taking a kid to your car, what kind of frame of mind would I have to be in? It's very scary. It is very hyper masculinized. It comes from a place of abuse and pain that is turned outward, especially when it affects your community. Please talk to your kids because it's so fucking unsafe out here. Like out there in these classrooms, what the f happened? Like I was in school and, you know, our teachers were never talking about their personal life at all. It was like a shock when I found out that my 5th grade teacher, who all the girls, all my friends had a little crush on, because that happens, that's normal. It's not normal for the adult to respond, but they were shocked. We were all shocked when we found out that he had a wife. Like, holy fuck, Mr. Shepley is married. You know, you think of your teachers as older, they know shit, and that's it. You don't expect this level of detail from teachers. And besides, shouldn't we just be like talking about math and science? Can we throw in some pottery maybe? Like we can always do more art in the school. There is no reason to even have like LGBTQIA+++ sex talk club, because that's essentially what it is. That's what my son and his friends call it at his school. These kids are wisening up, thank goddess, because the adults, they cannot count on us right now for good sex ed information. And it's unfortunate that we live in a time where we must also be talking to our kids about predators along with their sex ed education. We need to tell them this is what grooming looks like. Here are the examples. This is what they will say to you. You have to make it concrete. We cannot be nice about this anymore. We cannot be sitting on this thinking it's gonna damage our kids if they know all this information. Oh, no, hello, the reality of the world is that there are a lot of adults out here that in some way, shape, or form want to maim your child psychologically, spiritually, maim your child, and do so in order to control them, to entice them, to keep them in a hold, to influence them. And they will do what they always do, what all predators do, is they'll start talking to the child about how negative their parent is, how much they nag, how they're so boring with their rules. This is typical. This is typical. This is not something that we're just seeing right now with Jeffrey Marsh. This has always been the ways of predatory adults. And a lot of the details that are coming out about this teacher, they talk about her being very influential to the kids and getting very intimately involved in their lives. She was romancing a 13-year-old. Ma'am, do you not go out? When the story first broke, I was sitting next to a person who's on the spectrum of left, okay? And I was sitting watching this news article on Jacqueline Ma as these details were coming out, and my first visceral sort of guttural reaction when I saw her speak in a clipping in which she's receiving an award for Teacher of the Year, I said out loud, "What the f*** is wrong with her eyes?" And that is because they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. If you look, you will be able to see malice. You will be able to see brokenness in people. And being someone that tends to just fall back and listen and pay attention to the details of people, I've been right many times. And it's the first guttural reaction that I had. What is wrong with her eyes? I thought at that moment of, as children, the eyes of our predator, they are the first things that will come to mind as we continue to remember our trauma. Those eyes of my predator and my abuser, it took me a while to forget them. And I definitely saw that there is a brokenness, there is a severe failure, there's severe trauma, there's a misalignment between body and soul, and this person needs help. They need to be incarcerated. Actually, they don't deserve air, is how I personally feel about it. But it is not my world to rule. The kind leftist on the spectrum person that I was sitting next to as I, a survivor, was gutturally reacting to the story, their response was, "Well, what you just said sounds racist." And then I said to this person, you know what? What the hell is wrong with saying that? I see malice there. I'm not looking at the shape of her eye that is associated with, I'm not even sure what race she is. I don't, and I don't want to assume. I'm looking at the puffiness of her face. You could just see that. And it looked like she had spent the night crying, probably because of her crimes. And then I said, well, you know what? She's got butthole eyes then too, like Pete Davidson. Of course, that was offensive too. And so that's also kind of pissed me off, because you know what? What kind of world is it where we are defending predators because of a race we perceive them to be? I don't want to make any assumptions about this woman's race. I also see that she has those weird looking eyelashes that these women are wearing these days. And that is a problem of her eyes. But when you're a predator of children, all bets are off. You're a scumbag. I don't need to be nice to you in any freaking way, and neither should society. Bring stoning back. As a child advocate, when I am regarding people that would dare cross this boundary, I don't need to be nice. I think we need to create a society in which these things really are punished in a way that would scare the bejesus out of anyone who would try. We're just not doing that, unfortunately. In California, we are putting predators out to freedom by the busloads, okay? They're doing this all the time. They keep releasing legitimately violent child predators back into the wild. I feel like our children are just being groomed, manipulated to this sex market. This is really starting to look like a legit Hieronymus Bosch painting. I keep saying this. It is a very dystopian series of paintings. I believe they were triptychs. Really bizarre stuff, but that's pretty much what California has been looking like for a while. I can see why a lot of people are opting for private school or homeschool, which I think might be what we're gonna end up doing, because California is a cesspool right now. There are so many immature, entitled, enabled, rainbow flag flying adults, if you can call them that, adulting, barely, who are relegated to our school systems, and they are very much taking a very pornified culture into our schools. And I don't appreciate that, because the sex culture that I want to teach here in my home is a healthy one, a woman-focused one. I'm raising a son. I'm a feminist. I want to instill proper guidelines on consent and beyond. Okay, I've had very in-depth conversations with my son about responsibility. Sadly, some women, like Jacqueline Ma here with malice in her eyes, women like her are broken by this patriarchal system. The reported percentages of women as predators are still very low, but we also have to make room for the fact that there are going to be women so hyper masculinized, so predatory. Sometimes patriarchy swallows our sisters up completely, and they take on the traits of the patriarchal systems that have oppressed the other sex for millennia. And it's not that I'm saying that I don't blame women. I blame every predator. All the blame is on Jacqueline Ma, this piece of shit who should have known better, should have known that the trust that these children have in her as an educator, in a classroom, at a school, that trust is so valuable. That's one of the many layers of this trauma that we overlook. But I still 100% hold the person, the individual, accountable. I don't give a about her sex. I don't give a about her perceived race, though I'm not sure what it is, or the shape of her eye, or the curves of her face. I got them too, boo. I don't give a fuck. You're a child predator. We should throw you away. You matter not. You're insignificant. To any survivors out here that have ever endured this kind of behavior, this kind of blatant abuse by a woman, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that happened to you. And you know what? She does not get a pass. It's decided. New rule. Take 100% control of your child's sexual education. You do it. I did it for my kid. If you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. I opted my kid out of Biden's curriculum. I'm glad that my kid's school at least let us know in advance. They sent us the materials. I still have them. Cringe. No. Thank you very much, but please opt my child out. I was the only parent in the school because I asked. I was the only parent in the school who did so. My child had to sit in an awkward room at the front office during that particular class. It's okay. You know what? That's fine. I explained to him why. I even pointed out the things about the curriculum that I did not believe in and that were not topics that we felt were appropriate or even safe. So I had the material. I kept what was fundamental and appropriate, which was pretty much everything on reproduction. I kept that, and the rest I discarded. The gender woo, bye. No, 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 no. We're not doing that. I explained to him why. He already knows this is a culture in our home, and he understands why. It makes sense to him. He understands that there's no such state in our human development or existence known as transition. He knows that that doesn't exist. You just got to grab the bull by the horns on this, parents. Stop allowing these people to indoctrinate your children into advanced adult kink and fetish. Not necessary. Give us some math, give us reading, give us more poetry. Why did you take away art? I do art workshops for my kid and his homies, the kids in the neighborhood. We've done ceramics, we've done clay. I keep all these mediums on hand because using your hands and creating art, that is a real experience. That's a real skill. That's something really cool and beneficial for the child. We want more of those things, and we want to be able to supplement our kids this way. How about we just leave our children ideology free, please? If parents are giving their kids stressful lives with trauma and reasons to feel anxious and unsafe, that's what they're going to manifest in their adulthood. If you're focused and you are present with your child and you're supplementing their time with proactive skill learning, if you help them build up skills, they're going to be those kind of well-rounded adults that you don't have to worry about very much because they're going to be able to make their own path in life. And that is what we want. We don't want to see anime-obsessed men living in their mama's house, like with no purpose and riddled with painful looking ideology. Ooh, this has been such a stressful week because of especially this funky ass story that has gone on here in good old SoCal, very close to that terrible in the shower incident that we recently had to endure. It's the wild, wild west for sure. Keep an eye on these teachers, okay? They are not above you. They don't know better than you. They are regular people, some of them oddballs. I've already taken my child out of a school that I thought was extremely toxic, and unfortunately, it was an Afrocentric school, as I've mentioned before. That was very much a disappointment, but you know what? It's a reality. Going back to my criticizing of this predator, Jacqueline Ma, the fact that I was trying to be corrected to a certain degree by someone with that mentality of like, well, we should just be nice. But I'm like, this is a child predator. And they're like, but still, it's like, it's just not nice. And I'm like, but why? And she's like, it's just racist. And I'm like, but I'm not even bringing up race. You are. And she's like, still. Yeah, like, no, you're lucky that the parents, the family of this young child haven't taken matters into their own hands somehow, because this woman posted bail, a hefty amount too, and she was out for a bit, and it was shaking up the neighborhood and making me angry about the fact that these people can even roam after such allegations. I mean, these predators are extremely aggressive out here. And just like with her, we should be able to call out the truth for what it is. We should be able to say, I'm not comfortable with this individual, and these are my reasons. It's almost as if this leftist mentality is like no, we just need to love and embrace everybody, and everybody is equal, even when you hurt and harm children. That is not going to fly in any kind of just political system. You see that the judicial system is broken, and you have this societal attitude that, well, you know, whatever. Let's just be nice to everybody. It's insanity. No. Come on, everyone. Where is your sense of justice? Stories like these are always going to aggravate survivors, because a lot of our complex trauma is tied up in whether or not our communities championed us, whether or not our communities stepped in and did something about these predators. So whenever we talk about these issues, always keep that in mind. There are so many of us out here who survive these kinds of experiences, and the way in which we talk about them too, that still matters to us. And I, for one, want to see a world in which what happened to me does not happen to anyone else. It's as simple as that. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for all your feedback, and I'll see you next time.
I am your worst nightmare come to life. I'm a girl who you can't shut up. There's not a gag big enough can handle this mouth. I'm gonna tell everyone what you did to me. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. And I was having this dream where there was this doctor, and I was on a conveyor belt, and I was going by like really, really slow. And I'm 9 years old, and it's really tired, and I'm really sleepy, tired, and I'm laying on the conveyor belt, and I'm going by really slow. And there's this doctor, and he's looking down on me, and I'm looking up at him, and he's looking down on me, and I'm looking up at him, and he's looking down on me, and he inspects every single girl as they go by. And we're on this island, and so it's like not a part of the rest of the real world. It's like separate from the rest of the real world. And because it's an island and I'm 9 years old, and the only things I've learned off the TV, I think everybody else, like all of the girls on the conveyor belt, are going to be brown, and I'm the only white one. And I'm going by, and he looks down and he inspects them, It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. And then finally he comes to me, and he stops, and he looks down. And I'm looking up at him, and he is looking down on me. And I am looking up at him, and he is looking down on me. And he reaches his hand down, and he starts touching me. Is this a dream? Is this a dream? It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. Only I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't dreaming. I don't really think I was dreaming. I really think something happened in that house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. But see, what if I had a fantasy before that made it happen? Or what if there was like a dream or something I saw on TV? Or what if it really didn't happen? Then I say something, and then everybody gets accused. And then, what about the fact that I like passive sex? It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. Something was happening. Why is it that I woke up for the first 12 years of my life in the top line?
Nothing was happening.
It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. It was the middle of the night in my house. I am your worst nightmare come to life. 'Cause I'm not gonna shut up. I'm gonna tell everyone. I'm gonna tell everyone. I can't sing you a pretty song.
Nothing was happening.
I can't sing you a pretty song. It was the middle of the night. night in my house. Was the middle of the night in my house. Was the middle of the night in my house. Was the middle of the night in my house. Was the middle of the night in my house. Middle of the night in my house. Was the middle of the night in my house. Something did happen. Why would a baby dream of rape? Why would a baby dream of rape? Why would a baby dream of rape? Thank you.